Hello, everyone. We're going to wait a few minutes for people to arrive, and then we'll start. Welcome to the Library Trustee Training Series. I'm your host, Bob Keith, and I'm joined today by Pat Massey. Before we introduce our speaker for this evening, I wanted to remind everyone that if you have a question for our speaker, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom window to post your question. If you'd like to speak with your fellow attendees or hosts, please use the chat button instead. As always, the session is being recorded and will be posted on the State Library YouTube channel in the Director and Trustee Training playlist. With that out of the way, I'd like to introduce our speaker for this evening, Jeanne Marie Ryan. Jeanne Marie has worked more than 20 years, or has more than 20 years of experience, I should say, working in public libraries throughout New Jersey. She also worked briefly for the New Jersey Department of State as the Executive Director of Early Childhood Literacy. In 2018, she received both the President's Award from the New Jersey Library Association and recognition as a Library Journal mover and shaker for her work as the chief architect of the 2017 New Jersey Library Construction Bond Act. Jeanne Marie is the director of the Keyport Public Library. And Jeanne Marie, thank you for being with us today.
It's my pleasure to be with all of you. I hope everyone has lots of questions. And shall we get started, Bob?
Yep, I'm clicking away trying to get your presentation shared. So here we go. Okay, that looks good from my end. Hopefully that's good for everybody else. Jeanne Marie, whenever you want to take it away, go ahead.
And it was especially apt this week since it's his 90th birthday.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. So in 2017, on November 7th, the voters of New Jersey approved a $125 million library construction bond referendum by a 20% margin. That actually created an economic stimulus in the state of New Jersey of $250 million since the bond required a 1-to-1 match. 970,000 plus people supported the bonding for library construction. I had so hoped it would be over 1 million, but it wasn't. And they supported these improvements despite the fiscal challenges that were facing the state. The Library Construction Bond Act had been introduced in the New Jersey legislature 3 years earlier. So what are the lessons to be learned from the New Jersey Library Construction Bond Act, and how can they help you do advocacy work? You need to find partners. And then you need to let people know what you need and what they can specifically do to help. A group of volunteers succeeded where I had utterly failed with one of our state senators. They got an appointment to go see him and persuaded him to sign on as a sponsor of the bill. That state senator went on to become the current Senate president, and he's become a great advocate for libraries. It's a wonderful thing to see. Other people went out and spoke about the bill throughout their communities and forged their own partnerships to continue to move the bill forward. And the person I always think of when I talk about that is Linda Hoffman, who's the director of the Woodland Park Library, and just the amount of community advocacy and grassroots efforts that came out of that community was amazing. And then another group made lawn signs and made them available to other communities throughout the state. You need to be ready to advocate wherever you are because you never know where you're going to run into someone. So, the New Jersey Assembly minority leader at the time, who's now one of the current Republican gubernatorial candidates, and I wound up in a doctor's waiting room on election day in 2016. And I'd been trying to get him to sign on as a sponsor for months. So I mentioned it again that day. And he said he had already signed on, but he hadn't. So we both whipped out our phones to check. Fairly soon after, he did at long last sign on as a sponsor of the bill. It pays to be persistent, and you need to keep smiling as you go back to people. Think outside the box. On the Chamber of Commerce's Walk to Washington train ride, which is one of New Jersey's biggest lobbying opportunities, we passed out Hershey bars that were labeled with the New Jersey Library Association logo. The label included a request to support the New Jersey Library Construction Bond Act and the bill numbers. A month later, when we met with the Speaker of the New Jersey General Assembly, his staff remembered we had been passing out the chocolate on the train, along with 3D printed keychains that said libraries build communities. It's good to have a gimmick sometimes to get people's attention. So make friends where you can and reach out. In the last 2 weeks of the legislative session, the press noticed us at committee hearings, ensuring that we got a fair amount of press coverage going forward. I also reached out to people who I knew from my advocacy work with the Junior League. And luckily for me, that included political reporter Laura Jones and former Governor Don DeFrancesco. They came and spoke at the New Jersey Library Association's Public Policy Institute about how to advocate successfully. Everyone knows someone. And when I say that, you never know who knows someone. It's kind of an interesting thing. So you've got to be open to that possibility all the time. Talk to everyone. I was at a Random House open house, and Alan Alda was one of the speakers. He and his wife had donated money to the Union Public Library for the children's room. During the question and answer period, I stood up and I thanked them for their
think Jeanne Marie's audio is having a little bit of a difficulty, so we'll just wait for her to come back.
what happened. I'm
Oh, you
sorry.
went silent. You went silent after you were talking about Alan Alda.
Oops. Sorry,
It's okay.
everybody.
It's not your problem. It's somewhere between Zoom and you. So
All right. So during the 2016-2017 New Jersey gubernatorial campaign, Anna Quinlan urged people to support the New Jersey Library Construction Bond Act at a campaign event. You need to savor each win because there's always more to do and another challenge to face. And I think people are feeling that particularly right now in the current climate we're all navigating through. So the day before the library construction bond got voted on in the General Assembly, my 21-year-old Saturn had broken down. Turned out it was actually dying and dead on the Garden State Parkway when I was on my way to Trenton to meet with one of the governor's staff about the bill. I conference called in from the cab of the tow truck, but only after I had called the driver's local library to find out about programs there for his children. When the bill got voted on the next day in the full assembly, Assemblyman Holly, who was a primary sponsor of the legislation, brought me down to the floor of the General Assembly and let me cast his vote for the bill. So, a few thoughts. Tip O'Neill liked to say all politics is local. You really need to get to know people. Then follow Winston Churchill's advice. Never give up, never give up, never give up. But I think the most important thing that anyone has ever told me in advocacy work, and one of the higher things anyone's told me in life, is that you really need to meet people where they are. So, advocacy tips for every day. You should get to know the people in your community, the community leaders, the storytime parents and caregivers, users of the library who are avid supporters, members of the legislative staff, and legislators. And I'll say it was in my first director's job that I actually realized that the library can hold their own with almost every other organization within a municipality except the fire department. Nobody will ever love us quite as much as the fire department, but they love libraries pretty closely, which is not a bad thing. So you should know your legislators and build relationships with them, local, county, state, and national. It's a lot easier to ask people for things if you already have met them and talked with them before. You can do that by introducing yourself at community events or actually going to visit them at their office. Make an appointment. I think you should visit legislative offices at least once a year. The Senate generally turns over every 4 years, and the Assembly turns over every 2 years. In the last election, there was a historic turnover, so we have a lot of new legislators out there who sort of need to be brought up to speed on our issues. And whether it's an in-office visit or an informal encounter, be civil. And if they are totally non-supportive, you can agree to disagree, but still go back next year. Because just because there's one issue you're not in alignment on, it doesn't mean that there can't be other issues that you will be in alignment on. Invite legislators to events at the library, your summer reading club kickoffs, Read Across America Day, and/or National Library Week events. Offer to let legislators do community outreach in the library so that constituents can meet with them and share their concerns. And let other people make your case to the legislators. It's so much more powerful if other people are telling your story. Try to find any connections that legislators have to libraries, relatives who are librarians, children or grandchildren who go to story hours, etc. Right now, there's a legislator up in Bergen County whose husband used to sit on their local library board. There are a lot of connections out there if you're willing to put the pieces together and find them. Most of all, enjoy your interactions with legislators. They're just people like everybody else. Relationships matter, so develop them strategically. And remember, all relationships require give and take. So these are my top 12 tips for advocacy and communication. Smile and use other forms of nonverbal communication. Have a sense of humor. Kindness and courtesy count a lot. Be aware of who your customers and stakeholders are. Know the community you work and live in. Understand the bigger picture that the library fits into. Be a team player. Cooperate with other people and groups. Know how to explain what you do. Be involved professionally. Prioritize. Know you're not always going to win. Play the long game. Organize. Keep track of where people and organizations stand on issues. Know the value of time and know when to ask for help. So these are some resources. Can we go back to the resources, Bob? The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. If you've been a trustee a while, you're familiar with The Tipping Point because the Karma Foundation used that to give out a lot of grant money to libraries throughout the years. The New Jersey State Legislature, that's a wonderful website. It will tell you how to contact your legislators. It will tell you the bills they're sponsoring. It will tell you a little bit about them personally and what they do career-wise. The New Jersey League of Municipalities and the New Jersey Association of Counties actually often cover issues that are important to all of us. And then for political news, the New Jersey Globe will give you a little bit of an inside track. New Jersey Spotlight News often covers just topics of interest to people in the state. Insider NJ is sort of insider baseball if you like politics. And NewJerseyNews.com. And then, of course, the Star Ledger. And I should have included the Bergen Record in this as well, but I did not. So I hope people have questions. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. I know it's kind of a little bit hard to know where the lines are right now. So I think we could talk about that if anybody wants to.
Thanks very much, Jeanne Marie. As we did in the last, the director's session, I pasted the contacts from that second to last slide in the chat. So if anybody wants to click on those or save them or copy and paste them, they can. We don't have any questions right now, but I find that a lot of people wait until the presentation's over to ask their questions in case their question is asked on a future slide. So please, if you have any questions for Jeanne Marie, please put them in the Q&A box. I was actually hoping while we're waiting for those questions to be typed in, we were discussing at the end of the last session about particularly boards and communicating and advocating and who should do it, how it should be done, when it should be done, things like that. And I was wondering, Jeanne Marie, if you could touch on a little bit of that while people are typing in their questions.
I think Pat has made a very important point that if you're going to identify yourself as a board member, then you need to make sure that what you're communicating is actually the unified opinion of the board. Now, we believe in free speech. So, of course, if you're just speaking as an individual, you simply need to clarify that you're talking as an individual, not as a member of the library board, and that's what you support.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, no, it could be a little bit tricky sometimes, but you're right. I think it's most important that as a trustee, you're an active trustee, that you do attend meetings, that you're aware of your library's mission and vision. And that you're actively involved. If there's a friends group, make sure that you join the friends group. Hopefully you have a strategic plan in place, and that will often drive a lot of your advocacy efforts. But yeah, it's good. And I know we've all heard about, you might have discussed at a meeting or whatever, or if you have a board retreat, having an elevator speech, so that everybody is sort of on the same page. It's very important that you don't go rogue and start talking about, library things that it's not really the belief of the entire board. So I do hope there are some questions.
Yeah, the people are quiet tonight. I don't see that many questions here, and usually there's a few, but and I don't even see anything in the chat saying that they're unable to use the Q&A. So
Right.
it may very well be that that Jeanne Marie answered all of the questions about advocacy, and yeah. So
well, there's certainly information on the State Library's website. There's additional information on the New Jersey Library Trustee Association website. And I do want to make sure that you all know that that is hosted by NJLA, and NJLA just has transitioned to new software. So I'm hoping that our NJLTA website will be improved as well.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yep.
have better communication with our members.
So I just got two questions in the queue, so I can ask those. Erin Cook asks, do you have a good general stump speech to share with people on why they should support libraries in general? I keep refuting that libraries are dying.
So I think one of the big things is that we serve populations from birth to old age, and that we sort of satisfy niches that other organizations don't cover.
Mhm.
There are community spaces, there's the help to students, the stopping the summer slump for reading. But I think the most compelling one is that we really do serve the community from birth to old age.
Good. Excellent. Okay, next question. Jim Rogers asks, do you have any insight or thoughts on the withholding? This is a question more for me, I think. Or maybe for the two of you, get your opinions on it. Do you have any insight or thoughts on the withholding of federal funds for the Institute of Museum and Library Studies, or services rather, and the impact this may have for local libraries? So we don't really have much to say at the state library yet because, at least according to the knowledge that I have, our grant from IMLS has not been canceled yet. There was one smaller grant that was canceled, but it was a very focused, program-oriented grant. But our general allotment from IMLS has not been canceled. And I would definitely refer to the state librarian, Jen Nelson, on that. I don't know if there's been any official communication yet to come out from the state library again, because we haven't really don't really have anything to communicate about at this time. We kind of have to be careful what we say as a state agency and receiver of those funds and things like that. So
So I
Raise a
will
good
say
point,
that
yeah.
Jen Nelson, the state librarian at the public policy meeting, said she would prefer not to speculate about that. And I think we all need to honor that because we're definitely operating in very tenuous times here.
Mhm.
I think
Exactly.
the best thing we all can do is continue to demonstrate the value and worth that libraries have to our legislators, both on the local, county, state, and federal levels. This is one
Agreed.
of those cases where it's definitely going to be helpful if somebody else is telling that story for us, right?
Right, and
Yeah.
then you probably, hopefully, got the last, what was it? I know we did it in March and in April, um, the update, a trustee update, because NJLA has been putting out messages. ALA, the American Library Association, has been putting out really good updates on this, and they also have a very, very easy way that you can contact your legislators to let them know that you feel that it's very important that they support this funding, library funding, and remind them how important libraries are to the entire community. Um, so yeah, even though the state library doesn't really um, advocate, where
Yeah. Yeah.
NJLA and NJLTA uh, certainly do. So yeah, they're even though we don't know where these things stand, because as we have found, things can change day by day. Uh, I think it's worthwhile to contact your legislators and let them know the value of libraries.
Very
Could
good.
we have a little feedback from the people on this call about how
Mhm.
many of them have ever actually participated in any kind of legislative advocacy?
Yeah. So if you could post in your chat just a simple yes or no if you have ever participated in legislative advocacy at any level. Um, for your library? Yes, no, no, no. Lots of, I think the no's are definitely winning out over the yeses. It's probably around 10% are yeses and maybe 90% are no's, from some quick math that I'm doing here.
So I guess my next question to all the no's is, what can we do to help you feel more comfortable about doing advocacy?
So if you could post that in your chat, that would be great. It takes a little bit of time for people to think of
Right,
something to say here. So
yeah. Takes more time than just typing yes or no.
Mhm.
I'm making the big assumption that since you're all here tonight and it's only April, you have plenty of time to get in your trustee training hours before December. So you must have some interest in advocacy if you're here. So
Mhm.
how can we help?
Yep. Yeah. What else? What
Yeah.
other sorts of things can we give you to make it easier, or things like that?
Right.
Time spent working on the board slash municipality concerns, but with not exactly sure. I would like Ray Grasso to kind of elaborate on that. Um, the sentence didn't really make couldn't pick out what they were saying. I did do phone calls. The phone call suggested by NJLTA, and it was so helpful that you had our legislature's phone numbers in the email. Jim Rogerson says, how about sponsoring a statewide rally in support of local libraries? I remember that happened in 2008 when
Yes.
the crash. It was 2008 or 2009. I forget when the actual rally happened, but there was a rally out in front of the State House Annex. Jeanne Marie, I think you were there, if I remember correctly.
I was.
Yep. And so yeah, that would have to come definitely from NJLA or NJLTA, or State Library cannot participate in that. So Ray Grasso would like to be involved in advocacy in the future. Um, so I guess we're still asking Ray, what would be helpful to allow you to do that? Are there any impediments to people participating in advocacy that you know Jeanne Marie or the rest of us could help eliminate?
Kind of hard the first time you do it.
Mhm.
And
It, yeah, I haven't done it, but it always seemed to me, um, not that you're like a salesperson, but there's the Venn diagram does have some crossover between the two of them, but uh, you know what I mean?
yeah, I
And
do. And it's,
I was very bad at sales back before I was a librarian. So,
well, I've never tried sales, but I will say that when I was in the junior league, we had to go out and try to fundraise, and I was a disaster at that. I was really bad, like by far the worst person in my group. And it
mhm,
makes me laugh that I can go up to legislators and ask them for all kinds of money and other things, but it's an acquired practice. So
mhm,
you kind of need to feel comfortable with what you're talking about. You need to passionately believe in it.
mhm,
And you need to be willing to take all kinds of rejection, but you have to keep going back. So for the people who are actually bothering to be on this, it's called a little known secret of the Construction Bond Act is that the Senate budget chair was not going to have his committee vote on it. And that was like the week that the session was ending. And he told
mhm,
us not to worry about it because they weren't going to vote on it. And it was the last budget session. And then we did wind up having another budget session and they voted it out of committee. But you
mhm,
really have to keep the faith sometimes because things can hang on a thread.
mhm.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we saw that even with the Freedom to Read bill, where we weren't sure where that was going or when it
Yeah.
would be finalized.
Yeah. Somebody's mentioned sending them messaging, I guess like talking points or things like that. Um, I don't know, again, that would come from NJLA or NJLTA. But I guess the talking points would have to be tailored pretty much for the specific thing you're talking about. It's not like a more general type of thing, right?
Right.
Jeanne Marie?
I would think, yeah, it's for specific issues, and it is kind of important when we're supporting something as a group that we approach it in a united way, because as Pat pointed out, Freedom to Read very nearly went sideways from an internal problem. So
Mhm.
the problem, well, the challenge with advocacy is once you have the legislators here, you've got to be really careful how you use your voice,
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
very
which
true.
I think is what we were trying to say at the beginning of the call it as well,
Mhm.
was sort of the follow-up to our conversation after the session this afternoon.
Right.
Mhm. Exactly.
So
So, oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I also would like to see how many people are just comfortable within their own municipalities or county structures dealing with their local officials.
So if you could say, you know,
Yes or no?
comfortable or not, yes or no for comfortable or
Right.
not comfortable. That would be good. While people are typing that, Erin Cook mentioned or asked, do we have a statewide visit your library day? Our library does an open house, which was well received by our community. If we do it statewide, it might help raise visibility as to what a library does in your individual community.
It's a great idea. We currently don't. We used to actually do legislative visits.
Yes.
And right now, NJLA is using a lobbying firm, so I think we've backed away from doing the legislative visits. But the idea of doing a library open house on one day is just, or even during the same week is great. Do you during National Library Week, Erin?
She'll have to respond. While she's responding, we got everyone was saying yes, comfortable, very comfortable with talking to their local council people and mayor and things like that. So,
That's good.
That is very good.
Erin says we did ours separate from National Library Week. It was in the fall near the start of school. And somebody else said they do a holiday open house at the Hopewell Public Library every December. So that'll be another thing is trying to get everybody on board for one day.
Right.
But that doesn't preclude everyone doing their own thing on other days during the year. It would just be, one day that you could count on, saying that you can visit all libraries and do some sort of statewide celebration of libraries on one day, and then individual libraries can do their own thing at other times of the year. So
Almost like snapshot day, right? Where
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
something a little like that, where there's really a focus on what goes on in the library. And it's a great way to, especially if you can get people, patrons to tell their stories, it can be really powerful in terms of
Be effective,
advocacy.
yeah, definitely. All right. I don't see anything else coming in. Um, People just voicing support for that idea. So maybe that's something, Jeanne Marie, you could take back to the Public Policy Committee and
Absolutely.
talk to
Right.
them about and see, kind of test the waters and see what people say about it. But until then, I think that is about it for today's session. Our next session, we're going to have just a trustees only session in May that
May
we'll
19th, right?
May
Monday, May
19th. Yep,
19th.
exactly. And I'll be putting out the Zoom info for that and giving that to Pat and Pat so that they can put it out on the NJLTA listserv. and get everybody signed up for that.
Right. But I will give you an idea of what it is. It's going to be an opportunity to meet with Attorney Douglas Zucker, who has now replaced Michael Cerrone as the NJLA attorney. So we will have a chance to have a Q&A and some discussion on library law that I think a lot of people have been waiting for.
I think they have this. Michael is enjoying his well-deserved retirement, but
Yeah.
we still need some if not legal advice, at least some discussion on legal matters.
Yes,
And
discussion on legal matters, right?
Yep. So you all can look forward to that on May 19th. And like I said, we'll get the information out to you soon. And as I said in the beginning, this session will be posted on the State Library YouTube channel probably on Friday, I think. So if you want to send it along to the rest of your board, you can do that then.
That's great.
Jeanne Marie, once again, thank you very much for hanging out with us twice today.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
really appreciate you taking the time to do that, and hope you had a good time talking to everybody and answering their questions.
I always have a good time talking about advocacy. So, and
Excellent.
anyone who has questions that they didn't feel comfortable asking, my email address is on the presentation. So,
Yeah, I pasted it in the chat, but I'm going to, so people don't have to scroll up again, I'm going to paste it again at the bottom here, just so people can see it there and copy it, paste it in case you have any other specific questions or other things you want to talk to Jeanne about. With that, I think we'll call it a night. So thank you, Pat, for being with us. Thank you, Jeanne Marie, and we'll see you all in May.
Yeah, thanks so much. Take care, everybody.
thank you, everybody. Have a good night.